Hi there, everyone, and welcome to our May information session for the Web Development Bootcamp. Lovely to have you on in your lunch break. So we're just going to wait for a couple of people to hop on. So in the meantime, grab your tea, grab a cuppa, and you might want to pop in the chat where you're tuning in from today. You can say a quick hello. So I'm Charlotte from Sydney. How about you? Where are you tuning in from today? And who do we have here? All right, so I'll be using the chat box a little bit today, so feel free to pop in and say hello to everyone. Cool, cool. We've got quite a few people today. Welcome, welcome. Nice. Hi there's Simon, Victoria, awesome. We've got Tom, we've got Imogen. Welcome, guys. All right, so as people trickle in, I'll just quickly introduce myself and make it start. So I'm Charlotte. I'm from Coder Academy. I'm one of the enrollment advisors here today, tuning in from Sydney. So let's begin. In the spirit of reconciliation, Coder Academy acknowledges the traditional custodians of country throughout Australia and their connections to land, sea, and community. We pay our respect to their elders, past and present, and extend that respect to all Aboriginal and Torres Strait Islander people today. In today's webinar, I'll be giving you a breakdown of our Web Development Bootcamp course in terms of the types of careers you can get into and the fields you can work in, as well as the course itself in terms of the coding languages we teach and the structure of the course. I'll also go through some of our industry partners and some of the testimonials from our graduates. I will then introduce you to our special guest today, Imogen, who's a Coder Academy graduate, and she'll be taking you through her journey from student to web developer. This is our team, me, Charlotte, and my colleague Tom. Tom is actually here today on our live chat, and he'll be collecting all your burning questions. So make sure you get those questions coming in, and then we'll have a Q&A at the end. We'll be answering those. So I'll get Tom to come on. Hi, Tom.
Aloha, hope everyone is doing having a wonderful Tuesday morning, afternoon for the most part. So yeah, just a bit of housekeeping when it comes down to it. Again, as Charlotte mentioned, all questions will be answered at the end, but definitely feel free to send them through the chat in the meantime. And one big thing as well is I realized it now is that could everyone just go to your chat and select from the two and click on everyone. So that way everyone can see your questions, not just us, the host and the panelists for the most part. Yeah. But yeah, other than that though, again, keep it to everyone and send your questions through and we'll answer them all at the end. Sounds good. I'll hand it back to you, Charlotte.
Okay, great. Thanks so much, Tom. And we also have our special guest here. I'd like to introduce you to Imogen. Hi, Imogen.
Hi, Charlotte. Thanks for having me.
Oh, absolutely. Thanks for coming along. So I'll just read a little bit about your bio, not to embarrass you too much. So look, Imogen is a full stack software developer at a company called Tanda. What makes her stand out is her technical expertise, along with her creative thinking and great problem solving skills. These transferable skills makes her a great web developer with a particular passion for back-end development. Imogen enjoys finding elegant solutions to complex challenges, getting satisfaction from designing software that genuinely improves user experiences. Her driving purpose is developing technology that makes a real difference in people's lives, whether streamlining workflows or solving pain points that enhance people's quality of life. Besides coding, Imogen's other interests are performing improvised comedy, rock climbing, and dancing. So she's very creative. So Imogen will be sharing her time from studying at Coder Academy. So basically her journey from what it's like to become a web developer, the challenges, some of the learning curves. And so she'll be coming around in a little bit. So thanks so much, Imogen. We'll see you soon.
Chat to you later.
All right, so let's go through Coder Academy's web dev course. Basically, it's a recipe of three main ingredients. We've got the curated content with excellent educators, and it's really easily accessible support with a 4-week internship. And then you mix all of these ingredients together to bring our higher education diploma in IT, Coder style. So firstly, the coding bootcamp, it's really fast, immersive learning. It's hands-on, it's practical and relevant and industry focused as well. Industry focused because we've got our expert teachers who've got loads of experience in the industry. They also give you continuous support that you can access online as well as face-to-face. And you also attain close bonds with your peers because all the classes are live. Secondly, it's a higher education diploma of IT in web development. It's a fully accredited qualification. And with that, there's access to fee help. And it's a reputable educator, which we've been around for more than 10 years. And there's also a diversity in tech scholarship that's available to apply for, which I'll talk to you a bit later on about. Thirdly, we have our work placement. So there's an optional work placement available after you finish the diploma, with a whole host of companies that you can work for at the end of your studies. Tech companies are just waiting to employ our graduates who have a lot of employability skills that we teach in the course. So first of all, what is coding? Code is the language used to tell computers what to do. It is a set of instructions that can be used to make websites and apps, as well as to process data. The types of coders are listed here. We have software engineer, programmer, web developer, front-end or back-end developer, and full-stack developer. You'll see the first two jobs are generic, whereas the other four are more specific. So for our students, it's likely they might apply for a software engineer role and it'll be in the web field, but it doesn't necessarily have to be that way. So software engineering, for example, can cover web, mobile, desktop applications, games, and firmware, to say the least. So to give you a visual representation of front end versus back end. So on the left, you'll see that front end is basically your client side, which focuses on the visual aspects of a website, the part that you see and interact with, the aesthetics, you could say. Now, the back end on the right side is the server side. So it comprises of the site structure, the system, the data, and logic. Together, they combine to make an interactive website, which is a joy to navigate. So that's what we teach in the course. We teach front end and back end together. Now, in terms of the coding languages, we teach you three main coding languages that work really well as a unit together. So HTML you can look as like the structure, CSS is the style, and JavaScript are your actions. And if you can imagine a human body, you've got HTML, which is the bones, CSS would be the clothes and the makeup, and JavaScript would be the brains. In terms of where to start, you don't need any coding experience when you come with us. And likewise, you don't need any specific tools or technology, just a simple computer with a browser, such as the one we've got here. We also use coding editors, such as Visual Studio. And we also use GitHub. GitHub is a proprietary developer platform that allows developers to create, store, manage, and share their code. If you guys want to have a little free taste tester of using GitHub in a coding course, we do have a free session on our website. Maybe Tom can pop that in the chat there. Otherwise, just ask us and we can show you where that is. So who employs full stack web developers? Now, the obvious one is IT companies, of course, like your JB Hi-Fi, Vodafone, UFoods, but there are some other areas you might not think. So retail is one of them, like your typical online shopping platforms. There are financial institutions like fintech and the banking apps you use every day and web services, and also digital services like your typical data analysis or a support engineer would work in. Now, a typical salary, so IT has always been a very stable career path to get into, and it maintains that web development also is a very attractive area to get into, and it's one of the most in-demand IT skills that are needed. So the typical salary you'd start off with as a junior developer would be about 65 to 75K, reaching up to, on average, 120K per year. There is about 30% job growth within the next 5 years. So it's a really good time to get in and get those skills so that when you are ready for the world of work within a year, you have that opportunity there. So I speak to a lot of people and they wonder, like, why do I want to code? What's the point? You know, I'm not an IT kind of person. Like, is it the right step? Well, look, there's many different avenues you can get into and many reasons why people get into code. One of these, it's the demand for skills the demand for skilled programmers continues to grow across industries, and coding opens up a wide range of career opportunities from software development, data analysis, web development, and even AI. Coding involves also breaking down complex problems into smaller, manageable parts and finding solutions for them. And these are skills we need every day in life. Your simple logical thinking, problem-solving abilities. So if you've got these coding skills, it's transferable to other areas of your life and other industries too. Coding allows you to bring your ideas to life. So it has a creative element, creating websites, apps, games, and other digital products. And learning to code, rather, gives you the ability to turn your imagination into reality. Coding also requires attention to detail and the ability to think analytically. So you'll learn how to analyze problems, identify patterns, and develop step-by-step solutions. And a lot of people think that coding is just like someone sitting in a room on their computer in the dark, like a gamer. Well, it's rarely really a solo activity. So a lot of the times in companies, you're working as a team collaboratively on a project. So by learning to code, especially with our course, because it's highly practical and hands-on, you gain skills working with others and helping with your communication skills and also sharing resources and ideas and brainstorming. In today's digital world, technology is pervasive. It's everywhere. So learning to code helps you understand how software and technology work, enabling you to make informed decisions and navigate the digital landscape more effectively. So many people get into coding from very different backgrounds. So one of the biggest reasons why people get into coding, or the areas they get from, is if they change their career. So they may have studied marketing or retail or something very different, and they just want to shift their career. More and more these days, we're seeing people shift their careers about 5 times in their lives. So we see this a lot. Many skills are actually transferable from other careers. So you might think, oh, I studied or I did retail. Can I transfer that to coding? You definitely can. The bootcamp is also good for those wanting to upskill. So you may be in an IT industry already, but in a different field, and you want to open up your career possibilities and climb up the career ladder. So you could do this course and get those opportunities faster. This course is also really good for anyone who doesn't want to go to university. They don't want to study for 3 or 4 years and have more of a theoretical approach. They want more of a faster, immersive, practical, more industry-heavy focused course where they can get qualified within a year. So that's another benefit there. So speaking of the course itself, so I'll deep dive into the nitty-gritty bits. So to study the bootcamp, you don't need any prior coding knowledge, which is great, just a basic understanding of computers. Now, the next intake is the 2nd of June, and it goes for 10 months. It's a 10-month accredited diploma of IT in web development. You can actually get credit into other courses. If you wanted to go to university afterwards and study a bachelor or some other postgrad, you can get credit. And it's 100% online. However, we do have online classes. So 3 online classes per week. We've got, for the next intake, we have Tuesday and Thursday nights, 7 to 9, and Saturday, 9 to 1:30. Okay. Apart from that, we would need about 23 hours of recommended study in your own time, just so that you can understand the information, do your assessments. We have a lot of additional support from academics. So during the day-to-day, we have online support through Discord. You can also make an appointment with one of our educators in Brisbane, Sydney, or Melbourne at our support hubs, and they can have a face-to-face touch base with you and help you out with some of your questions. Also, we have fee help available for the course. The cost is $15,000 for the full course. If you don't wish to use fee help, you can do easy debit payments as well. Okay, so that's a summary there. Over here is a bit more of a summary as well. So we've got 10 months, as I mentioned, 28 hours of study per week, which includes your live classes and your recommended study. There'll be assessments filtered throughout the course as well. So some of them are quizzes, others are more like project-based or building an online app. And I'll go through these in a little bit. All right. So let's go and deep dive into the course. So what are the topics? What are the subjects? So in term 1, we're going to be focusing on HTML and CSS. You'll build a web-based portfolio, Python programming, you'll build a terminal application, and you'll be learning Python, which is an augmented language, with Flask, which is a framework. In term 2, we'll be teaching you JavaScript, deployment, React, which is a framework. You'll build a full stack web app for clients in a team. So that'll be your last assessment. And then we'll also teach you DevOps fundamentals, AWS usage, and Docker. So it is quite condensed, but we try and teach you all that you need to know. So when you go to a company, if you've learnt one sort of stack or framework, you can easily apply that to other programs. And after the course is done, you can do an optional minimum 4-week placement at one of the companies that we are affiliated with. And we have a partnerships team that continually strive to gain more connections. So they'll interview you, have a chat early on, and see what your needs are. Okay. At the end of the course, you'll be qualified as a junior web stack developer. And this means that you'll still need some mentoring, you'll need some supervision at the beginning stages until you're qualified to actually work independently on your own as a web stack developer. So in terms of the partners that we've been working with for the last few years, here's a great selection. Some of these are small startups and others are well-known bigger brands. All of these companies have different requirements, so not all of them work with us at the same time. For example, Epsilon took on someone in August last year, and they did so well, they extended an offer of employment to that person. This is a great result. However, it also meant that due to the new person taking up the resources, they won't be able to host again until another year or even later. Magentis is another company, and they prefer people that already have some experience or background in healthcare. And instead of hosting people for an industry placement, they'd rather hire straight away. Another example is Hismill. They only want students that can do full face-to-face placements because they really value company culture. So in conclusion, some companies only host students for placements, some hire straight away, and some hire the graduates after their placement. So it does vary greatly. The important thing to remember is that the partnerships team will take all of these considerations into account, even if you live remotely or you're working part-time elsewhere. All of these will be taken into account, and they'll try and match you up with the best company that fits your needs. So now I'd like to share some testimonials from our graduates. So this is Jean. She had a cheerleading background, which is very different. So you can see the different backgrounds that people come from. And she entered the world of coding. She liked that our classes were online, so she didn't have to commute anywhere. And she enjoyed the interactive environment where she got to collaborate with her peers. She ended up landing a job working full-time as a developer. Chris, on the other hand, worked in retail for a while, and he says that Coda gave him a solid foundation in software development. And along with his customer service skills that he gained from retail, he was able to get a job at Entain as a software developer. And lastly, we've got Reese here. He worked in hospitality for 12 years, and then he decided to change his tack and study coding. He liked Coder Academy because they provided practical experience and in-depth knowledge. And our partnerships team got Reese a work placement at a company called Cognis, and the company liked him so much that they actually hired him full-time. So now he's still working there. Now, we realize that there is a big diversity gap in the fields of programming, IT, cybersecurity, and cloud technologies. So we've developed a scholarship for each intake called the Diversity in Tech Scholarship. This is for anyone who thinks that they can give something special in the tech industry, who are diverse, who are unique, and have something to give. And this gives you 50% off all course fees. And all you have to do is just apply online. There's a couple of questions there, and you need to submit a portfolio, and then we'll assess that. So the deadline's 2 weeks before the intake. So well worth to have a think about. Now, in terms of applications, if you'd like to jump on board, our next intake is the 2nd of June, and we would love to see you come forward, and any expressions of interest, be happy to have a chat. But if you'd like to just jump on, as I said, there's an online application form on our website. You just fill in the details and attach some photo ID. The entry requirements are you need to be at least 17 years old and have completed Year 12, a Cert 4 diploma or a degree, and just prove have some academic proof for that. After you send in your application, you'll be receiving a letter of offer that you need to sign, and then we'll just sort out the payment options, which one you want to do, whether it be fee help or easy debit option. And then we have an online orientation, and then you're set to go. So it's super easy. If you like these webinars, by the way, if you've come for a few of them, we have them pretty frequently. The next one's in July. So it'll be on our website, and also we'll email you some more details. So I'm going to stop here and stop sharing my screen. We're going to invite Imogen to come on to share her experience as a Code Academy student and her current job, which is so exciting. So thank you so much for coming back, Imogen, and take it away.
Thank you so much, Charlotte. Hi guys, I'm Imogen. I am currently a full-time web developer, and I really remember what it was like to be you guys. I did the same webinar when I was deciding whether or not I wanted to do the boot camp. And when I was you, I was feeling really anxious. I was really nervous. I didn't know if it was going to be the right decision for me. I asked everyone in my life for advice. I asked my mum and my dad and my friends, and all of them gave me completely different advice. So I'm not going to add to your problem. I'll only give you one piece of advice at the very end. Other than that, I'll just talk about my experiences with the boot camp, both the good, the bad, and the ugly of it. But let's start with the good. The good of my experience doing the boot camp at Code Academy. So my boot camp was a little bit different to yours. I did the 6 months intensive. So we had 3 terms. And that was every Monday to Thursday, I'd have a lecture, and then Friday, which is a full day of practical work. And it was very similar assignments that you're going to have. So I think I did, just looking through that list, I did everything that you're going to do. So, but for me, it was slightly different. Like for term 1, it was a static website. Term 2, it was a terminal application, the API, and term 3 was that full Learn Stack application. And like for you guys, that was my last assessment. And one really good thing about that bootcamp and about these assignments actually is that they are so exactly what I use every day at work. The course really is precisely what you need as a web developer. And there really wasn't anything that was extraneous. Then the thing that Charlotte said earlier about you can learn a particular stack, but it's applicable to other coding languages is true. So like you, I learned Python as my language with Flask as the framework, alongside HTML, JavaScript, CSS. And my actual work, I use a different programming language called Ruby, a different framework called Ruby on Rails. Don't worry if I'm saying a bunch of words to you because you're not familiar with tech. I was also never touched coding language, had never written a line of code. All I'm trying to say is that even if you're not doing a one-to-one direct thing in your job, the skills that you learn are extraordinarily applicable. And also the stuff that you've added about, well, I say you, but the Coder Academy has added regarding Docker and DevOps stuff, amazing. That's so good. And like we use it at work, and that would be incredible to learn. Here's the thing that I thought was amazing about Coder Academy. Like I said, I'd never written a line of code before, had never touched it. When I was in the webinar, I had a list of coding languages that they said they were going to teach me. I was like, I don't know what that is. But within like 3 weeks of doing the course, I was already up and running, writing code. This was my first assignment. This is what I did after 3 weeks. It was my portfolio. And I was so proud of it. And I am still proud of it, that this was an incredible thing to do after 3 weeks. And that kind of momentum and the ability that Coder Academy gives you to like pick up things and learn things quickly really does, I think, travel on for the rest of your career. So that was 3 weeks after I had written my first line of code. 10 months after I wrote my first line of code, I was actually working a full-time position, and I was able to write code that actually helped people. So this was a page that is used for an applicant tracking system, and going from within a space of a year to not being able to write code at all to actually being able to help people and like make their lives easier was incredible. It's amazing to have that really quick, genuine impact. Like one thing that I'm quite proud of is that something that I designed was actually used as part of the marketing material for my company, which is Tanda. Yeah, so that is incredible. Another thing that was really good is the flexibility. So like my bio said, I'm a comedian, and being able to study with Tanda meant that I could say yes to opportunities for comedy that I think I would have to otherwise say no for. So while I was studying at Coder Academy, I could travel interstate and internationally to perform. I've got to go to Melbourne to perform at PAX. I've got to go to Sydney to perform at a comedy festival there. I got to travel internationally to New Zealand to perform at the Improv Festival. And these were amazing experiences that I think that if I was in a different, maybe the university education structure, I wouldn't have been able to say yes to. Now, that being said, obviously, I let my course conveners know, and I did have to work harder to be able to do these things, but it was amazing to be able to do them in the first place. And really, I'm so pumped that I get to like learn, that I get to be a coder and I get to do that every day. And that's something that I would not be able to do, obviously, unless I took the boot camp. And that's all been really good. But some things have been less good. Some things have been a bit challenging. And I want to talk to you about the things that were challenging in the boot camp as well, just so you can know what you're getting into with bright eyes. Now, there's a caveat here that I did the 6-month boot camp. So that was a full-time boot camp, unlike yours, which will be able to be slotting with your work life. So for me, I had to leave my job. I was a medical receptionist before I was a developer. And the Friday, I was behind a desk doing my last shift, booking patients in. The very next Monday, I was in front of my laptop listening to my first lecture. And in retrospect, I really do wish I'd given myself a bit more time, because the course is intense. Just as I said earlier, that you go really quickly from not knowing how to code at all to being able to make a meaningful impact. That is directly correlated to how hard you have to work. I found it, like, to be frank with you, a bit challenging personally. I frequently found myself feeling overwhelmed or anxious that I wasn't getting the content. But I think, honestly, it set me up really well in my working life. Feeling, having to be an autodidact, having to deal with imposter syndrome, having to be comfortable in unfamiliar contexts. These are all things that you will experience on the job. And I think having this experience of being like very much thrown into the deep end with my boot camp really set me up to be job ready when I was in that position. And I found that, actually working the job was way, way less stressful than doing the boot camp. But also I did travel a lot for comedy, which I think did make it more stressful for me. And I did do the 6 months intensive course, which was quite intensive. So that's the bad. Now onto the ugly. And by ugly in this context, I'm going to be talking about that period after you finish the boot camp, trying to get a job. Now, for me, the thing was that I finished my course around early 2024, and the job market was not great then. We were just coming out of that post-COVID boom. And I know that like a lot of people really struggle to get jobs in the tech market. Juniors were not getting hired. In fact, my resume was shown to a company and I don't think they even read it. But the thing that put me ahead and how I got my job, and the only piece of advice that I'll give you, is that I went to events. I went to this hackathon called Hot Hack. And while I was at Hot Hack, someone saw me, they liked what I did, they liked how I worked, and they handed my resume to the hiring manager. It was the same company that hiring manager worked for, was a person who I think didn't read my resume the first time. And then they reached out to me and they offered me a job, and that's the job I work at now. And I would not have had this job unless I had attended that hackathon. So this is my one piece of advice for you. In that post-boot camp period, really go to in-person events. You'll have your partnership team working on your resume, helping you with your interview skills, really trying to do the best they can to get you into a position and get you into a placement. But you make their job a lot easier and you make your chances a lot better if you have these pre-existing relationships to work off. Yeah, and I guess in conclusion, Coder Academy changed my life, and it really has the opportunity, like the chance to change a lot of people's lives. Like the person that's my boss at my work, he went to Coder Academy. He met his fiance through Coder Academy. He also got the job at the company I work through Coder Academy. And I love my job. I really love coding and problem solving and helping people. And I wouldn't be able to do that unless I had taken this course. So if I had my time all over again, I would do the exact same thing. I hope that's really helpful. I just hope it's helpful. Thank you guys so much for your time.
Thank you so much, Imogen. That was so insightful. I can't believe your boss went to Coda and then he met his wife there too. That's really cool. Thanks so much for your insights and really having a holistic view, really like looking at the challenges as well as the good parts. So, and it's not always easy getting a job. By the sounds of it, networking is really important. So, and that's exactly what you did. So well done for being proactive. So now, guys, we have time for Q&A. And I'd love to have your questions. I can see the chat was pretty busy. So Tom, I'll hand it to you. Any burning questions for me or Imogen or yourself?
No, super duper simple. Honestly speaking, I would love to actually ask Imogen, like, what does your day-to-day kind of like look like as a web developer for the most part?
My day-to-day, I'll come into work. I'm a big in-office person. I think the thing that you said earlier, Charlotte, about coding being such a communicative thing is really true. It really is like a collaborative process, which is something I really love about it. So I'll come into the office, I'll sit down. I normally I have, I don't know how much of the nitty-gritty you want me to go into, but my work, we work on project methodology, which is a term you'll learn in the course, which is to say like the framework that we do our work in is called Shape Up. So I have one shape, which is the project I'm working on. I'll be working through that. I might have a meeting with the head of product or my team lead, and I'll talk about where I'm up to in the project. The other kind of meet, like other than actually just fully coding, sometimes we can go to meet actual customers and have a chat with them if we're working on a new feature for an R&D mode. And that's really fun. I love doing that. I love talking to real people and getting their problems.
So real.
Yeah, and that's kind of what a day of my life looks like.
Nah, sick as. And I think that for the most part, like you mentioned before that you came from a med background, right?
Yeah.
How did that pivot kind of look like going to coding? Like what inspired you? And was it as clean as you expected it to be, would you say?
That's a great question. What inspired me was I'm someone who makes a lot of like small, silly mistakes. So I'm a big proponent of having to do something correct once rather than having to do something write 5 times. So
Mm,
if I write a program to do something, I only need to do that right once, which I have a much better hit rate.
yeah.
And so I found as a medical receptionist, I really wanted to reduce the amount of time, like points of failure. I found that, the more that people handle things materially, the more that there's a chance that there's going to be a small mistake that slips in. So if you change that to being handled programmatically, then you're going to have less of that kind of human error problems. So that's what inspired me. And in terms of the crossover, I think that it was kind of like a phoenix coming out of the ashes, just felt completely different to whatever happened before, which
Yeah.
was also really exciting to have this whole new experience and exploring and discovering about a new industry.
Yeah. Sick as. No, I really appreciate your honesty with that, Imogen. And it's kind of interesting because like the way that you like to think, and you're like, oh, this job kind of matches the way I like to think. I may as well learn and kind of do that pivot, right? So
Yeah,
you
exactly.
actually have a question here from Amelia asking you what was the starting salary as a developer that you were expecting, Imogen?
My starting salary was actually completely in the band of what Charlotte said. That was nailed it. And it was, for me, it was slightly more than I was getting paid as a medical receptionist. But this is just without my experiences.
Yeah.
So that's like slightly more than I was being paid as a medical receptionist. But the big thing that was exciting was number one, the potential for growth, which is not there for medical receptionist, obviously. And B, and this is kind of the corny answer, but I genuinely love my job and I love what I do. And I really, truly hated being a medical receptionist at the end. So the idea of like coming in, getting paid better to do something I enjoyed more, but like, I mean, what more can
It's a
you ask
win-win,
for?
right?
It's a
It's a win-win.
win-win.
And along the lines, you said that development, how would that look like? Because there's another question here asking, how do you see your career development essentially?
That's interesting. So this would probably be different to company for company, but again, I'll give you guys my experience, just so you have one data point. So in my company, the ranking is junior software engineer, senior software engineer, team lead, and the people at there is no. I wouldn't say I feel like there's any barrier for me to become a senior software engineer at my role. There are, like I said, my boss, my team lead at work is a senior software engineer and a Coder Academy graduate. It is, so that's where I see my career progressing. I'd love to be a team lead one day. That would be really exciting. I hope that answers the question.
Yeah, no, I think that ticks my boxes for the most part. Hopefully it ticks your boxes as well, Amelia. So I think this is a good question for you, Charlotte. Who actually teaches the course? And if you do get stuck, where can some of our students go for help?
Great. Yeah, great question. So we have a host of teachers that teaches the course. We have support hubs as well. The main teacher, Alex Holder, teaches the web development course. He's super nice, very friendly, very approachable, and very knowledgeable as well. Whenever I ask him a question as well, when I get stuck, what's this coding language and how do I do this? Is just gives me like a 2-paragraph answer. So students can actually get online support through Discord. Otherwise, you can make an appointment with any of our teachers in Sydney, Melbourne, or Brisbane by appointment. So you can come into our campus. We basically share the facilities with a sister school called AIT. So you can use the computers and facilities there. So I hope that answers your question, Simon, I think it was.
Yes, it was Simon. And the next one I can kind of cover a bit more about for Ashley. She's interested in learning a bit more about our scholarships. So when it comes down to it, we do have one scholarship, which is our Diversity in Tech Scholarship, which I can definitely flick a link through, or Charlotte, if you can flick a link through now. And essentially, I'm pretty sure it's a completely merit-based scholarship where you just have to fill out a form, explain your reasoning, and then from there, we'll get sent to our academic director, and then from there, they'll make a decision on who gets the scholarship for that. In terms of like the actual how much it cuts, do you know how much that is exactly, Charlotte?
You mean the discount is 50%
50%,
off?
right?
Yep,
Yeah.
50% off. Yeah.
Exactly that. So if you are looking to apply, I'd recommend just shooting a shot anyway, because I think that at the end of the day, the worst thing that can happen is you get a rejection, and the best thing that can happen is you get 50% off, right?
Absolutely. So
Easy
I'll
as that.
send you an email actually, Ashley. Okay. So with all the details, I'll do that afterwards.
Awesome. So
Okay.
another question for Imogen here from Simon. Did being a
Mhm.
comedian help you in some way?
Absolutely. Absolutely.
Yeah.
And
Wow.
I'm actually really glad this came up because it's something I feel really passionately about, which is I think that's really unsung, I think, in the STEM
Mm,
world is soft skills. So
Mm,
stuff like being a comedian, going on stage, got me very used to being able to go up and talk to people in real life.
mm,
Taught me a lot of skills about communication. It taught me a lot of skills also about conveying maybe like a complex idea to someone. And this
mm,
is really important. And it's something that's really interesting, I find, because one of the things that more challenging than any technical thing that you'll learn is trying
mm,
to convey a problem to someone and convey
mm,
the requirements of that problem. So stuff like if you're someone who does any communication-based hobby, if you do Toastmasters or you do acting, or
mm,
even I think like if you do something that's like performance-based, like dance, something that you're used to kind of going in front of people and presenting something, those skills are invaluable.
mm. Cool.
He's following up with a follow-up question. What's harder, debugging code or bombing on stage?
Do you know what's Do you know what's so funny about this question? Because Simon wouldn't know this, but this is actually something I have a very strong theory about, which is
Mm,
bombing on stage and debugging is almost exactly the same thing.
mm,
Mm.
You go on stage, you tell a joke, it doesn't work. You go
mm,
off stage, you go, why didn't that work? Let me try changing these sequence of letters or like this sequence of words, or see if I can make the punchline shorter, and you try again and you see if it bombs again. And then you
mm,
write a piece of code, you run it, there's a bug, and you go,
mm,
okay, why didn't that work? And you just try changing the code around, adding some
mm,
variables, and you run it again. It's the same, like actually, I can pull this back to being relevant for people who aren't just comedians. The
mm,
thing about doing coding and entering this industry, if you have a pre-existing skill set, or you have you in your industry now,
mm,
almost definitely you have applicable skills from your previous training or your previous work that you can pull to
mm,
your new job and your new industry in tech. And I
mm,
think those skills in that domain knowledge really does set you apart from other developers. And
mm,
that's a really important thing to keep in mind.
mm. Interesting, actually. It's kind of like what you did. What did I learn in this previous role, and how can I integrate it to my new role, whether it's comedy, being a medical receptionist, and whatnot, right?
Mm.
So
Mm.
with that in mind, like given that jump, are there kind of like any hot tips and tricks that you'd like to give to our viewers today in terms of like how they kind of manage to do maybe a pivot similar to yours? Like, was there anything that you wish that you knew when you first started the course, essentially?
Yes, I would say the most important thing is to focus on the processes and the way that you think about things rather than getting too stressed about the exact precise
Mm,
language that you're learning, or the exact precise syntax, because that kind of stuff is very easily Googleable. That kind of stuff.
mm,
You have a lot of like, every day you get more and more tools that
mm.
remove the friction for that.
Yep.
If you go, how do I approach this problem? What are my steps? And understanding kind of underlining strategies.
Mm-hmm.
That doesn't matter what technology stack you end up in, doesn't even
Mm,
matter what kind of role maybe even you end up in, that will
mm-hmm.
hold you in good stead.
Could you give me an example where you've used this philosophy in your own work?
Yeah, absolutely. So something like, oh,
Sorry, I put you on the spot, by the way.
no, not at all. I think, oh, stuff that's like well, one I've mentioned earlier, but I'll repeat because I think when I started, it was really unintuitive. And it only you kind of get when you go through is that the
Mm,
actually writing the code is not the difficult bit. Understanding
mm,
what code you need to write is a difficult bit.
mm,
So the process that I had to learn is at the very beginning of working on something to
mm-hmm,
like gather as much context as I possibly can, write
mm,
out a plan for myself. And this is
mm,
another thing where like coding is very communicative. I go around in the office and physically talk to people,
Mhm.
ask clarifying questions, really try to get exactly what you're doing before you
mm,
do something, and then do it. And then doing it, it's so you get a much better project and it's a lot more pleasurable
mm,
to do. So that's kind of like the way you think about it is more important than the actual what you're writing.
mm. Ooh, good. Thank you very much for sharing with that, by the way. And Matthew
Hmm.
has another question for yourself. You said that you were working as a medical receptionist, Imogen, 1 week, and then the following week you started the course and wish you had more time. Could you clarify a bit more in what you meant by more time?
Yeah, absolutely. So what I mean by that is that I wish I had kind of given myself a bit of a break just to kind of prepare myself and be able to start a little bit from a lower base stress line. Because this is for the 6 month course. The
Mm,
pace was breakneck. Like 3 weeks in, I had my submit my first piece of assessment, and I think it was how long was the? I think it was like it was Halloween, the 31st. I remember
yep.
because it was actually really, it was very seasonal based.
Mm,
Started in September, Halloween was we had to submit my final piece of assessment. It was
mm,
2 weeks, like it was a lot, like there was a lot to do. There was a lot to get through. So every day was just like, it was a sprint, right? It by nature, it kind of wasn't sustainable, but that was okay because it was only 6 months. But you'd
mm,
be like sprinting to Halloween. You had 2 weeks off. You'd sprint. My then next piece of assessment was due on Christmas Eve. So you sprint to Christmas
mm,
Eve. Then you had 4 weeks off, and then you sprinted to the full stack assessment. And it was uh, in term like it was incredible within 6 months going
yep.
from never writing a line of code to being able to make a full application, front end,
Exactly
back
that.
end, huge, right? And it wasn't like the amount of information in retrospect, insane. What did I do? Like, what have I done in the last 6 months? What have I learned? I don't how to make a good boiled egg. That's it. Like it,
Yep.
but it was, and I think mate, this is won't be such an issue for the
The 10 month
10 month
course.
course. I
Exactly that.
mean, you almost have literally twice the time, but yeah,
Yep.
it was like bow, bow, bow.
Yeah, that 6 month accelerated boot camp is insane. And I think that if
Mhm.
you're the fact that you're able to do it really just goes to show how disciplined you were, I would say. Because it gets quite intense for the 6 month boot camp. And that's the main reason why we've moved all of it to 10 months now, because it's a lot more
Mm,
manageable, it's a lot more paceable in a sense. So you don't feel like you're
yeah,
dying for a breath every time, you know what I mean?
I think so. I think that it's going to be, it'll be a nicer experience. I mean, once again, it was like, I did it. It was good, but it was
Mm.
hard. Yeah.
So valid. Another key question here as well from Linda. What were some key considerations and actions that you took when navigating the career change process? How did you decide to become a developer over other roles? For example, product manager, UX, UI design.
Linda, this is a great question because in my current role, I actually was hired as a designer. So the reason why I was hired is because I was hired as a UX UI designer. That was my job title, and it was
Hmm.
because I had designed a lot of advertising and a lot of my own promotional material for comedy, and I was able to give them a portfolio. And it
Mm,
was in the role where I was like, oh, I love this back end stuff. Like I like design, but I love this back end problem solving nitty gritty.
mm,
And my team lead at the time recommended me for a developer role that had just come up. And so I
mm,
was moved on to being a developer. So I think that I'm going to turn that into advice or the tip that I'd give is that you don't know necessarily what you're really going to love before you come in. You might, because I always thought, I really thought when I started, I'm like, oh, I reckon I'm gonna really hate all this yucky, crunchy, yuck backhand stuff. Ew, I'm gonna want to like look at the front. And now I'm like, I cannot mess around with the color of a button. I do not care. It can be whatever color. I would rather just make some logic in the back end. And that's kind of an exciting opportunity for you. And I guess my tip would be just be like really ready to explore and have fun with what you learn.
Mm. Nah, I love that. And I think that that's advice that we give that's not just true to just this industry, but just in life in general. Try as many things as possible because you really just don't know what you're gonna like until you actually do it, right? Nah,
Mm-mm.
awesome, awesome, awesome. Yeah, nah, with that in mind as well, I would love to actually pass it over to Charlotte now and I just ask a question about how does the enrollment process look like for those students that are looking to maybe get started in June or August, which is our next intake afterwards?
Yeah, absolutely. So if you're interested, guys, we have our application forms online. So you just need to click on the how to apply little tab there, fill in the application form, and we'll see that come through. We'll have a quick chat about your goals, what you want to get out of it, and make sure it's the right fit. And then if you're successful, we'll ask for a couple of things, such as your photo ID and an academic proof. So year 12, a Cert 4, diploma, whatever you've got. And then we'll send you a letter of offer for you to sign and date, and talk about payment options after that. So we'll guide you through the process there.
Simple. Oh no,
Yeah.
sounds good. So if you guys are interested, definitely pop on the website, click for an application, and either Charlotte or myself will get to you from there. And I do have another question though, because there's a big, what I get a lot from students is they always ask about remote work, Imogen. And from what I'm
Mm.
hearing, you do a lot of traveling. So does that mean that you're remotely working quite a bit? How would you say your work-life balance has shifted working back as a receptionist and moving into this more developer role?
Oh, that's such an interesting question. Um, I think your mileage may vary on this one. Like from my perspective, I am a big in-office girly. I love to be among the people,
Yeah,
love to have a chat over, the
the water
kettle.
cooler.
Exactly, exactly. But for my job and what I can see, so from what I've seen from the industry,
Mm,
a lot of like the thing that is mostly used is the flexible work.
mm,
So, for instance, I'm enjoying the benefit of flexible work right now. This is in my own work lunch break as well. So
mm,
when this ends, I'm going to go back to work, and I was working this morning. And
mm,
that's another thing that like you can, I mean, as a medical receptionist, obviously you cannot just be like, sorry, I'm just going to pop up and I'm going to, do a Q&A, and then I'll come
mm.
back in and book people. Like so that flexibility is amazing. And I know that like my coworker is going to be, he's from New Zealand. He's going back to see his family next week, and he's going to be working then. It depends on your employer, but I would say, yeah, that work from home flexibility is a huge perk of the job.
Mm. Awesome, awesome, awesome. Nah, that's amazing. I really do appreciate you taking time out of your own day to actually do this for us and to really help students, for the most part. But yeah, other than that though, like just like final thoughts in terms of like Coder Academy, how did you feel about it? Just if you were to sum it up into like a general sentence, essentially, and for the most part, like what were the main kind of projects that you used that you learned in Coder that you felt gave you the most benefit, I would say? And if there's like, do you have any fun memories from Coder as well? Anything specific?
Yeah, okay. Coder Academy summed up in a word in a sentence would be like life-changing experience. My life is completely different to how it was before Coder Academy,
Mm,
and it let me do this job that I love. The projects that I think were the most useful in terms of my actual job,
hmm
I'm going to say the API. So we had to, that was uh, understanding how the shape of an object and how the server communicates to an application
mm,
uh, was really good. Like that kind of knowledge is just so bedrock for what I do every day.
hmm
Um, and the most fun, I really enjoyed the last assignment actually, because that was in a group project and we could meet up in person.
hmm
And it was just really enjoyable, kind of working on something together, being able to be part of a team. I really loved it.
Nah, sick as collaborative work, right?
Mm.
Yeah. Oh, I forgot to mention because you mentioned before that your company was using something that you made as well. Could you dive a bit more to that, if that's okay with you?
Oh, yeah, sure thing. So do you want to know what I'm working on now or what I've done in the past?
Whatever you're happy to share with us.
Yeah, I can. What I'm working on now is I work on payroll software.
Mm,
So I last thing I did yesterday actually was
mm,
ability to pay the superannuation for collection of
mm-hmm,
employees in
mm,
bulk. So
mm.
that and what I've done previously, I've had the real pleasure of working in a lot of Australian couple departments. So I've made a
Yeah.
communications app, so group
Mm-hmm.
chats and single person chats and like a Facebook wall for my company.
Yep.
I've worked on an applicant tracking system. So
Mm-hmm.
if I had my server still running, actually I might check if my server's still running. I can just if it's not, it's almost certainly not worth making it run. Um, but see, can I show you what can I show you that's
Not signed by an NDA.
yeah, not something
No,
that I
that's
cannot
okay.
show
Leave it.
you.
Privacy, that's okay.
Yeah,
It's
yeah.
all right.
No
Yeah.
worries. Yeah, that's kind of stuff I've been working on.
And I think Linda has another question. Have you dabbled in code before considering the boot camp?
The closest I ever came was copying, pasting HTML for my old Tumblr page, if people remember
Oh my God,
Tumblr.
Tumblr. Oh,
Uh-huh.
that's a website.
Yeah, that's a sure as a website. When I was 13 and it did not work and I immediately gave up. That was the closest I ever did to writing a line of code. And yeah, now it's my job.
Nah. Like, and what ended up like, I'm actually kind of curious, like when you were looking to like coding, what kind of gave you the edge of like why did you go with Coder Academy rather than anywhere else, if you don't mind me asking?
Oh, absolutely. Yeah, I had a friend who worked actually as a game dev
Mm,
after finishing Coder Academy, and they had nothing but nice things to say. And so I was like, that looked like it worked for them. I'll give it a go. So word of
uh,
mouth.
that's crazy though. He was a game dev after
It was
Coder
a
Academy. It really just goes to show you that coding can get you anywhere. Like what?
Yeah, I think if the thing about Coder Academy, it gives you a really great foundation.
Mm,
And if you're a self-starter, you can take that. Like
Mm.
I saw someone who was a DevOps engineer after doing
mm-hmm,
Coder Academy. Like you really can use it to leverage into like if you are strategic about what you do to do a lot
mm.
of different roles within the tech sphere.
I do agree with that. I think that the main outcome from what I could tell is like it's not just about coding, it's about learning how to code and learning how to learn coding, I'd say.
Yes.
It's like
Yeah.
learning the right systems to learn these concepts. And I think that if you go in the mindset that I'm not going to just learn how to code, but actually how to learn coding essentially, you will
Mm.
get so much more out of it because because we both know the technology field is just rapidly evolving. It's always changing. So rather
Mm,
than learning things specifically, it's more about learning the systems that you need to put in place to learn those skills. That's what I would say.
absolutely.
But
Mm.
yeah.
Oh, I have a question actually, Tom, and for you, Imogen, actually, about how you went to hackathon. Are there any kind of
Mm.
events and other networking opportunities you would see that you know of? Like if, say you've just finished the course, you may have done a work placement, you don't have work yet. Is there a
Mm,
place where you can meet and greet?
I can answer for Brisbane. So
Sure.
if you're in Brisbane doing an in person, like and you want to meet people in person, there is React Briz every 2 months, and that's something I frequently go to. So if you're there, say hello. There's also not React Briz, sorry, Briz Rails is the one I frequently go to. The other one is React Briz, which is the JavaScript framework. There's also I think there is just a front end called JS Briz, I think is the name, but I have to look that
mm,
up. Um, Other than that, the precinct in Fortitude Valley has a lot of events, so look up
mm.
what they're doing. The, Tom, do you have any ones for Sydney?
For Sydney, honestly speaking, I hover more around the games events than the actual coding heavy events. If you're into games, there's plenty of events. If you go on Eventbrite, they have they're always posted on Eventbrite. It's my favorite website right now, honestly speaking. But yeah,
Yeah, cool.
this does take us to 1:30. So Charlotte, I'll hand it over to you now. I'll put a Q&A.
Yeah. Yeah, absolutely. Thank you so much, Imogen, for coming as a guest speaker in your lunch break as well to share your experience and some really good tips as well. And thank you, Tom, for being on the live chat today. Thank you, all of you, for your attention today. I hope you learned a lot from us. And the next webinar, as I mentioned, is in July. If you'd like to put in your application, the next intake is June 2nd. Feel free to touch base with me or Tom for any questions or guidance. And otherwise, see you at the next webinar and have a great afternoon.
Thank you
Thanks,
guys.
everyone.
Take it easy.
See ya.